Can 1.3 million people be wrong? Yes. Yes, they can. Madeline Miller's novel The Song of Achilles has a high rating on Goodreads, is hugely popular, and won the Orange Prize for Fiction in 2012. It received a huge boost in sales after it went viral on TikTok in 2021. Most professional book reviewers praised the novel, and I can see why it is so well liked. Madeline Miller describes some things very well. Her comparisons are unusual, yet apt, and some of her characters are quite vivid and interesting. We'll see later in the video I'm not the only one who liked some aspects of her characterization. But I assume the main reason for the novel's popularity is that despite the ancient Greek covering, at heart it is a sensual adolescent romance. Patroclus, the narrator, is a twink with no apparent skills or personality. So why does Achilles fall in love with him? Don't know. The emphasis on their infatuation wouldn't be so much of a problem if Miller didn't keep trying to persuade the reader that her story is set in the ancient world. The Song of Achilles lacks that quality which makes historical fiction feel credible and immersive. Retelling parts of the Iliad with an American idiom and mindset, the novel includes throwaway lines such as, "Briseis was a war prize, a living embodiment of Achilles' honor. In taking her, Agamemnon denied Achilles the full measure of his worth. Briseis is in Agamemnon's custody, but she is Achilles' prize still. To violate her is a violation of Achilles himself, the gravest insult to his honor. They have dishonored Achilles. They have ruined his immortal reputation. It was not so much about the worth of any object as about honor." So blandly asserting these things does nothing to actually establish an ancient Greek way of life. And most of the time, Miller's characters don't really seem to believe the sentiments in these lines. For 2/3 of the novel, Achilles doesn't care about his honor or his reputation. He only does after Agamemnon takes Briseis away from him. So why does he care at that point? Don't know. Achilles is the greatest warrior of his generation, but he and Patroclus spend most of the novel admiring each other's beauty, avoiding war, playing the lyre, and making the beast with two backs. They don't resemble their Homeric counterparts. They resemble the Homeric Paris. In the Iliad, Paris avoids the duel with Menelaus, and Hector scolds him for his good looks, his love of music, and his seductive qualities. Later in the Iliad, Paris is spirited away from the battlefield. Menelaus is looking for him, but Paris is in his bedroom waiting for Helen, where he is shining in his raiment and his own beauty. There are many splendid ironies here. The first is that while Andromache loves her warrior husband Hector, Helen despises Paris. In the Iliad, she begs Aphrodite to take her away from him. She says, "I am not going to him. It would be too shameful. I will not serve his bed." When Helen finally sees Paris, she derides him. "So you came back from fighting? Oh, how I wish you had died there, beaten down by the stronger man, who was once my husband." The other irony is one that Miller doesn't quite seem to be aware of, at least in this novel. Choosing a life of pleasure, Paris dooms Troy to the destructive wrath of Athena and Hera. Choosing a life of pleasure, Madeline Miller's Achilles and Patroclus are rewarded with glory and a best-selling novel. How modern! How sentimental! Madeline Miller's Achilles and Patroclus are more interested in their own amorous feelings than anything else. They grow tall, but they don't grow up. This is the classic celebration of American adolescence that we've seen since the 1950s. So why did this novel need to be set in the ancient world? Don't know. I can understand some of the thinking behind it. No longer interested in military heroism, or actively hostile to it, the modern novelist retells ancient stories from different perspectives, especially ones unsung by Homer. Ancient stories must be made to espouse modern values. There's nothing wrong with retelling Homeric stories, although Euripides did it first. And if you have a look at the titles of some of his plays, you'll notice that he has a particular interest in the women of myth. Queen Elizabeth I translated some of his plays into Latin, and Lady Jane Lumley was the first to put his Iphigenia in Aulis into English. So why is it a revelation when an ancient story is told from a female perspective? Don't know. Pat Barker, in her retelling of the Iliad, The Silence of the Girls, also has a woman as her narrator. The story is mostly told from the perspective of Briseis, and she starts with a complaint. "Great Achilles, brilliant Achilles, shining Achilles, godlike Achilles!" How the epithets pile up. We never called him any of those things. We called him the Butcher. Achilles is a butcher? Where have I heard that before? That's right, it's in the Song of Achilles. I'm not suggesting that Pat Barker has plagiarized Madeline Miller's work. I'm only suggesting that the two novelists share a way of retelling the Iliad, a way which doesn't resemble any ancient Greek worldview. Is the point of historical fiction to transcend ourselves and our current situation, or to point out that ancient stories don't quite match modern values? Don't know. Reading these adaptations, I get the feeling that the modern novelist isn't responding to Homer, but to modern interpretations of his works. But despite the many retellings of the Iliad, one perspective remains unexplored, that of Achilles' horses. During the Trojan War, they talk to him and they mourn his death. Surely there's enough material there for the modern novelist to riff on.